I am allowed to record things. You don't have to stare at me. You're in this video. You're cute in the background. That's what you're here for. Okay? Dog. So we get a little bit of a rainy in the background today. He's so cute. He just got a walk. So he's happy. He's like, I am cut off at the bottom of the screen. You're fine. If you're really that worried about your camera angle, then scoot back a little. It's up to you, dog. So, I have the dog here because I am going to be talking a little bit about I guess a heavier topic today or so, or a little bit. This is just another one of the evil Digimon that I've been doing, evil Digimon videos or so. This one's just kind of a group of evil Digimon, as kind of what I did with the, the Dark Masters and such. They kind of got all grouped together and everything. These are a set of 4 Digimon that I'll get grouped together because they are all part of the same group anyway. This video is going to be about the Daemon Cores. So you would think Daemon Cores, so that's what I'm assuming that's the play on words they were going for, but Daemon. The Daemon Core is made up of Daemon himself, Skull Satamon, Lady Devimon, and Marine Devimon. They are a group of Digimon that all work for Daemon, who are trying to get Kenichi Joji to get the Dark Spore out of him. It's never specifically stated what exactly they plan to do with the Dark Spore, but I'm going to assume it's probably something not similar exactly to what Oikawa / Malamyotismon wanted to do with the Dark Spores, in regards to like implanting them in children and such, but it may have gone around the same time. Do you mind? Sure, go ahead. Clean your paws. But, so they show up. So this part takes place just after the Digidestined have gotten back from the Digimon World Tour, where they have to, globe hop all over the place and take care of all of the control spires in the different countries, and then, send a bunch of the Digimon back to the digital world. Will you stop that? Yeah, I know, you're cute, but you don't have to lick there all the time. He's like, but I have to be groomed. You just went to the groomer. I swear to God, dog. I swear to dog, God. Yeah. You want to know the funny thing is? I am dyslexic, so... but this also corresponds with... So, it's after they all come back from, globe hopping all around. And it corresponds with Tai and Kari actually have a conversation. And part of that conversation I use as the end quotes on this because it was about the closest thing I could come up with a good quote that would match this video. The quote is, or it's kind of along the lines of Kari and Tai having this discussion, and I've mentioned this both in Kari and Tai's videos, that Tai points out the fact of, okay, yeah, you've destroyed some control spire Digimon. You guys have broke some dark rings and dark spires, the control spires and everything, and beat back some of the, you've beat back some of these, the control spire Digimon and such. And, yeah, you fought Chimeramon and were able to defeat him, but he wasn't quite a real Digimon. He was still this, this created Digimon. Black War Greymon, they've also dealt with Black War Greymon in this time frame, of course. But Tai is trying to point out to Kari that, like, at some point you guys are going to have to face real Digimon that are evil, that are just straight evil, plain evil. And all they're going to do is want to hurt people. And the reason that this one gets a little bit more of its own section is because throughout the course of dealing with the Daemon Cores, Yoli and Cody, and to a degree Davis, have to deal with the fact that, yeah, they do have to understand that there is a difference between good Digimon that are being controlled, control spire Digimon that can be destroyed because they're not real, and then Digimon who are just straight up evil and that need to be destroyed. And so it's like there's this huge learning curve that that they need to go through. Davis doesn't quite have this same thing. He still, I think, has a little bit of a problem with when he has to finally destroy one of the evil Digimon, but he doesn't have as big of a problem with it as Yoli and Cody do. So the first members that we are introduced to are Daemon. But he's actually not the first one that we're introduced to. We actually are introduced to, I believe, Skull Satamon first. Skull Satamon is, you know, it's around Christmas time and everything. And him and Lady Devimon are out trying to find Kenichi Joji. And they report back to Daemon and say, okay, we found him. And then they have Marine Devimon causing problems, Skull Satamon causing problems, and Lady Devimon causing problems. Skull Satamon ends up fighting against Davis and Ken, and he ends up having to deal with, he also, Izzy and Ty are there as well. This is during the time frame when the older Digidestin have the ability to have their Digimon be able to Digivolve all the way up to their highest form that they've achieved that thus far. And so, like, they're trying to fight against it, and what ends up happening is, you know, they have Imperial Dramon there, and he's fighting against Skull Satamon, and he ends up getting this, you know, he ends up getting attacked by Skull Satamon that kind of immobilizes him. And, you know, he, you know, Imperial Dramon is, like, paralyzed in the middle of the street, so he can no longer move, and he can no longer fight. So, the other Digimon, the other Digidestin's Digimon, the older ones, give up the remaining power that they have from Azulongmon. They give that to Imperial Dramon, and that kind of, you know, kind of erases the attack or prevents, you know, fixes what Skull Satamon did, and he's able to Digivolve into Imperial Dramon, fighter mode, sorry, Imperial Dramon fighter mode, because he has Dragon mode, and then he has Fighting mode, and then he has Paladin mode. We're not at Paladin mode yet. Are you pouting because I'm not talking about you? Okay, fine. But what ends up happening is, Skull Satamon then basically picks up a bus of children, and is, you know, a bus, and he's getting ready to throw the bus, and in order to prevent him from throwing the bus, Imperial Dramon Fighter Mode then has to destroy him. And he, you know, obliterates him, and I don't quite remember if Davis and Ken have as big a problem with this as, like, Yoli and Cody do. I don't think, like, Davis is not, like, 100% down for, like, yeah, we gotta kill this thing. It's not that. It's just more, he's like, okay, I didn't want to do that, but it was either, hi, I will pet you. Dog. Look at dog. Dog is cute. Dog is hang off bed. I love the dog. Very much so. But he's a pain in the butt. But what ends up happening is, you know, Davis isn't as, like, against having to destroy the evil Digimon the way that, you know, Yoli and Cody are. I don't know if they see Imperial Dramon destroy Skull Satamon. But he does, and yeah, he's gone. He's no longer an issue. But after he's destroyed, that's when Daemon shows up. But first, we still have to meet Lady Devimon and Marine Devimon. So first, we're gonna do Lady Devimon, who, in all honesty, I actually kind of I like Lady Devimon. She's my favorite out of most of the evil Digimon, just because of she's kind of awesome in and of herself. What ends up happening is her and, you know, her, Skull Satamon, you know, and, you know, Marine Devimon are, like, off trying to, you know, they're all trying to find Ken. Like, they've located him, and now they're just trying to, like, intimidate the Digidestins into having him, you know, surrender. And what ends up happening is she's causing, like, all these problems in, like, this car tunnel. She sends, like, a bunch of her bats through the tunnel to try to make the cars crash. And it's Yoli and Kari that show up, with Kari with Anjumon, and they show up, and I think also Where Garurumon and Garudamon are there as well, trying to deal with her. This is kind of a callback to in the original series when Anjumon and Lady Devimon end up basically getting into a, you know, heaven and hell cat fight, angel and demon cat fight. So it's a callback to that. I don't know if they specifically state whether or not this is the exact same Lady Devimon, or if it just happens to be a different Lady Devimon. Admittedly, the original Lady Devimon was destroyed, so it is quite possibly the same one. She's just been, you know, reborn and regrew up and still became evil. Some Digimon are just inherently evil, and that's what they will always become. So if it is the same one, then that's the case. But obviously, Anjouamon remembers having to deal with a Lady Devimon in the past, and they get into a slap fight again. And throughout the course of this, Yoli does not like the idea of having to destroy Lady Devimon. You know, Kari's like, we're gonna have to destroy her. We have to. And she's just almost, you know, Yoli and Kari have to like chase her around, and they have Sylphimon there. You know, they DNA digivolved Gatomon and Aquilamon to have, you know, so they have Sylphimon at the moment, and they're running around, and like Lady Devimon is, you know, is just terrorizing. Like she terrorizes I don't remember if it's her or one of the others that terrorize like a theme park, but one of them terrorizes a theme park, and then Lady Devimon at one point takes like a boy hostage, and she's holding on to him, and she's got like her claws ready, you know, to, you know, stab into him and kill him if Yoli and Kari end up trying to attack. She's trying to, you know, use this to keep Sylphimon at bay. Yoli grabs a skateboard from one of these other kids that are around there, and she whacks Lady Devimon with it. And, you know, this lets Lady Devimon reacts to this, and she lets the other kid go, and the other kid scurries off. And then Lady Devimon is about to attack, you know, Yoli. You know, has her, you know, her demonic arm ready to stab through Yoli, and she gets destroyed. She gets, you know, vaporized by Sylphimon, and Sylphimon says, I had to. And, you know, I had to do that, or she was going to kill you. And, you know, it's either let her kill you, and you're not destroy her and let her kill you, because you're, you know, Aquilamon is part of Sylphimon. It's like, I'm not going to let you hurt my Digidestined, and also Gatomon and Yoli get along fine. So it's like, I'm not going to let you hurt my Digidestined, and then continuing to hurt all these people. I'm also, you know, I'll protect you, you know, Yoli over, you know, letting you live, type of a thing. And it's just one of those moments where it's like, Yoli has to, you know, she came face to face face to Giant Claw with death. And she just kind of has to learn that, no, sometimes in this case, you do have to kill the evil Digimon, because if you don't, they're just going to go and kill someone else. They're going to continue to kill other people. And so that, you know, Yoli has to deal with, you know, has to deal with Lady Devimon in that case. And then the next one that we meet is Marine Devimon. I actually kind of like his design. He's kind of a cool looking one. I don't honestly know if in any of the other Digimon series, if any of the characters have a Marine Devimon. I know in Digimon Tamers, one of the kids has a Marine Anjouamon who is adorable and so freaking cute. But I don't really quite know. But he's one of the members of the Daemon Core, and he showed up in Tokyo Bay, and he attacks this cruise ship which has a wedding taking place on it. So he attacks that, and then he is the one that TK and Cody have to deal with. Joe is also there with Zudomon, trying to take care of Marine Devimon. And there's this whole battle that ends up ensuing because, you know, Anjouamon and, you know, Ankylamon DNA digivolve into Shakuamon, and Marine Devimon, you know, is, you know, kind of leading them into the city, and Shakuamon is just trying to prevent Marine Devimon from causing any more damage. And of course, Marine Devimon doesn't care about who it kills as long as it does what it's supposed to. You know, causes chaos is literally what he's trying to do. And he's just trying to, you know, oh, I'm just going to do this and this and this and this, and just like causes all these problems. And there ends up being this hospital, and Cody and TK and Joe, well, Joe's brother is this is also taking place during the time frame like Ken is like kidnapped by Oikawa, so Davis is in the car with Joe's brother Jim driving around, and like Cody and TK were in there too, and so were Yoli and Kari, and like at various points like Yoli and Kari have to get out of the car to go deal with Lady Devimon, and now TK and Cody have to go deal with Marine Devimon. And you know Davis is just trying to get to Ken to, you know, save Ken from Oikawa. because this is, this overlaps with that time frame of Oikawa wanting to get the dark spore out of Ken, wanting to copy the dark spore that's inside of Ken to put into the dark spore children. So a lot of this stuff all kind of happens at the same time in like the course of like 3 episodes, I think. And it's like 3 or 4 episodes that a bunch of this stuff takes place in, because like they do a good job with the car chase, in all honesty, and it's very well animated, these episodes. And I think I mentioned this when I was talking about Kari and Ty's talk. That part of the episode, that episode in of itself is actually very beautifully drawn. For like the time frame that they were doing for it, for that time frame of the 90s or so, the late 90s, early 2000s, when they were doing Digimon. But what ends up happening is Cody and TK with Shakuamon are trying to deal with Marine Devimon, and Marine Devimon gets to this hospital, and he's trying to cause a whole bunch of damage in the hospital and everything, and Cody and TK are trying to get a whole bunch of the people out of the hospital, and trying to evacuate the hospital so that way nobody gets hurt. And Marine Devimon is about to he's about to destroy the hospital and attack where Cody is. So Shakuamon used his Justice Beam to completely obliterate Marine Devimon. And Yoli and Cody each have to go through this moment where it was like their Digimon was put into a position of either the Digimon that we're fighting is going to kill our Digidestined and kill these innocent people, or we can destroy this Digimon. And it does not put, Cody... I've mentioned this before. Well, I mentioned that Mimi is a pacifist before, but even Mimi understands that you do have to fight back. Cody and Yoli have these moments now where they have to realize that, yeah, there's a difference between these Digimon and Control Spire Digimon and Dark Ring controlled and Dark Spiral controlled Digimon. There is a difference. Those Digimon, the Dark Spiral Digimon, the ones that are being, that were controlled by Ken and such, they didn't have a choice in the matter. They were being forced to do it. The Dark Spire, or the Control Spire Digimon that were made by our Kenimon, those don't have sentient. They're not sentient. The only one of them that we're aware of that becomes sentient is Black War Greymon. And then with these Digimon, this is the first time that the Digidestined, that particularly Cody and Yoli and Davis to a degree, have actually full-on encountered evil Digimon that have made these very conscious choices to be evil. I'm trying to make a very important point. The dog's in the background grooming himself. Whatever. But it's this moment where they have to realize that, okay, maybe we do have to destroy the bad Digimon. And, there's this difference. I mean, like, their data can still be reborn, and they'll still get, like, a second chance. They may still, obviously, very much choose to become, an evil Digimon again, particularly if this is the same Lady Devimon that, like, Kari dealt with way back, that was part of, like, Piedmon's Nightmare Soldiers in the original series with the Dark Masters. If this is the same Lady Devimon, then she made the same choices again, but instead of following Piedmon, she followed Daemon instead. But it's never specifically stated if she is the same one or not. Which then leads us to the Grand Controller, the Grand Master of this group, who is Daemon. I do not remember. I want to say that Daemon is a mega level, is like the highest level. He's also on top of that, he's also an extremely, he has a ton of battle experience. So yeah, of course, Imperial Dramon fighter mode is extremely strong, because like he at one point has to fight against him, but Daemon doesn't even get like a scratch on him. After Skull Satamon is destroyed, he appears, and he basically demands that Ken come with him so he can use the Dark Spore's power, for his own ends. And then, our Kenimon and Mummymon and, Oikawa appear, and they, grab Ken and take him, and they're with the, kidnapped children that they have, the future Dark Spore children. And then this is when, he sends off Lady Devimon and Marine Angemon to go cause more you know, go cause more problems. Throughout the battle, you know, Daemon just kind of like hangs back and just watches as, like, you know, Lady Devimon and Marine Devimon are both, you know, destroyed by Sophimon and Shakuamon. He doesn't really care. They're his servants. He didn't care that Skull Satamon died, if I remember correctly. But he is still very much, you know, he's like, okay, yeah, they were good, but they were expendable. I didn't care if they just died or not. They're a means to an ends. And he, you know, tries to, you know, he then takes matters into his own hands. And he stops the truck and he demands that Ken hands himself over. And during this time frame, you know, him and Oikawa just have kind of this like exchange with each other. And I don't remember if there's a hint in this where like Daemon says something to Oikawa, or says or makes a comment or something about sensing like Malamyotismon or Myotismon. Will you stop licking your own foot? He's like, fine, I'll bite it. Okay, dog. But you know, I don't remember if like Daemon mentions anything about like, oh, sensing like Malamyotismon inside of Oikawa. I don't remember. But like, you know, Daemon is just like, fine, I'll deal with the Digidestin first, then I'll get Ken, because he'll be demoralized because his friends are dead. And, you know, between Shakuamon and Sylphimon and Imperial Dramon fighter mode, he's still not able, or, you know, he's still not able to be destroyed. And, you know, he's like, you know, at one point they're like, well, okay, so we can't destroy him, so we have to send him back to the digital world. And he says that that's pointless because he can simply come back. You know, he's like, fools, how do you think I came from the digital world? You know, in the first place, I'll just open another portal and come through. He's that powerful. And so what the Digidestin decide, and it's Ken that makes the decision of, okay, I have to send him to the Dark Ocean. I went over this in Ken's video and a bit in some of the younger Digidestin's video as well, because what happens is, of course, Ken has to like tap into the darkness that is inside of him and then use that to open a portal into the digital world that then opens into the Dark Ocean. And then they, you know, he forces that open. And then between, you know, Imperial Dramon, Fighter Mode, and Sophimon and Shakuamon, they're able to force Daemon through the portal and into the Dark Ocean. You know, he's like, oh, it's, you know, he's like not extremely concerned about it. It might be harder for him to get back from the Dark Ocean, but he's kind of like out of the way for the time being. But he's not really, you know, they seal him away, and he's sealed away inside of the dimension that is, you know, the Dark Ocean. I'm gonna give the Dark Ocean its own video at some point. And there's an extremely powerful Digimon in the Dark Ocean called Dragomon. And if I remember correctly, Dragomon just kind of looks like Lovecraftian Cthulhu-esque, because I think that's what he's based on, in all honesty, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. But we don't see Daemon again. He's mentioned in Digimon Tri, in like the last episode. He's mentioned by evil Geni, Dark Geni, after Ordinamon is destroyed by Omnimon Merciful Mode. He says, maybe I'll just come up with, you know, he states that he can just try again with another thing that he can corrupt, and, you know, maybe Daemon will work, or Diaboromon will work again. Because it's this concept that, like, this piece of darkness will just keep getting reborn again and again and again inside of different entities. It's kind of where that comes from. And we don't really, you know, as I said, we don't see Daemon again. I will be doing another Daemon video at some point, because Daemon is actually a Digimon that is part of this group of Digimon that is called the seven Dark Lords, or seven Lords of Sin, or something like that, because one of the, of course, that the digital world that Digimon has based a lot of things on is there's like, you know, there's stuff from the Bible and stuff from other mythologies and such that are very much you know, Digimon that are based on those things. There's like a bunch of Digimon that are based on like the Greek or Olympian gods, and I don't know how many they have in regards to being based on like, you know, Norse gods, but I would assume there are some. They have some that are like based off of Egyptian gods, if I remember correctly. But there is a group that are based off of the 7 deadly sins. You may have heard of a Digimon called Lilithmod. She quite obviously is the Digimon that is based off, you know, is the embodiment of the sin of lust. I do not remember what Daemon's sin correspondent is, that, you know, he represents, but I will do a video in the future about, like, you know, the 7 lords of sin, or whatever they're called, the 7 dark lord Digimon. I don't remember, but they're extremely powerful evil Digimon. But, you know, that, you know, so they'll get talked about at some point, but Daemon doesn't ever show back up again. I don't even think Skull Satamon. I know Skull Satamon, a couple of Skull Satamon show up in like Digimon Frontier. I don't remember if Lady Devimon ever does, and I don't remember if Marine Devimon ever does pop back up again in any of the series that I've seen. But I could be wrong, and I'm just not thinking about who else has popped up in those. It's been a while since I've watched some of them. But that's what we have for that, for Daemon and the Daemon Cores, with, you know, Lady Devimon and Marine Devimon and Skullmon, or Skull Satamon. They all kind of have cool looking designs that I do kind of like, but they're just, you know, they're all evil Digimon in this case. That doesn't mean that just because someone, how can I phrase this? We've seen the Digidestined have their Digimon Dark Digivolve before. Tai, you know, Agumon Dark Digivolved into, you know, Corrupted Digivolve into, you know, Skull Greymon, and then Kari, when, you know, in Digimon Tri, when she thought that Tai was dead, Dark Digivolved or Corrupted Digivolved Nyarumon all the way up into Ophanimon Fallen Down mode. If you look at the branched evolution trees that happen between, like, the Lady Devimon and Devimon and Angemon and Angelmon lines, if you look at those lines, like between, you know, Patamon and Godamon and Black Godamon, and like there's another variation, and like I think it's a Demi Devimon, like those 4, their lines very much crisscross, based on in the games, based on like how you raise them. And in regards to the series, I would assume by technicality that if, you know, Kari was, you know, corrupted again or something, if like the Dark Ocean got its way and had been able to corrupt Kari and corrupt Godamon, then, you know, Godamon could have very easily turned into Lady Devimon. So, yeah. And, you know, so there's that twisted part that goes along with that, because Digimon have all of, like, the much more branched-ish and, like, crossed evolutions that happen. But, you know, Digivolutions that happen. So, that's what we have for the Daemon Cores. I thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a nice rest of your day, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye! You may have broken some dark rings, a couple of dark spirals, but your group has got to be prepared for what you know is coming next.